հայկական երկնքով
Through the Armenian time, Tatev sky and astro coordination time, the time on Earth can be defined very accurately with a second precision.
մեր երկիր մոլորակի ժամանակը Նավասարդը ուրեմն առաջի վկայված մեր
Navasart has been our main festival since most ancient times, which was witnessed by the historians of those times, like Khorenatsi, as well as by modern ones, like Adons. Navasart is definitely the main festival of the Armenian nation that was solemnly celebrated at the national level. The celebration was accompanied by wet harvest and benediction of grapes. These ceremonies have lived up to our day.
Տոները կատարվել է բավականին երկար, ինչպես մենք հասկանում ենք 10-15 օր։
The celebrations lasted quite long, some 10 to 15 days. Our research has revealed they began with the coming of the sun, with the sun year getting stable until the rise of High Orion's constellation and of the star of Sirius.
Հելիակալ ծագումը եւ ավելին գնում է մինչեւ Սիրիուս։ Պետք է մենք հասկանայինք, այդ նավասարտը իրականում ինչ հիմնարար ուրեմն օրինաչափություններ ունի իրեն մեջ ներառված։
It was necessary to understand what fundamental regularities constitute Navasart. Definitely, as soon as we realized this was the beginning of time and were guided by this argument, we came across other, deeper sublayers. Բոլոր մահմեդական ուրեմն կալենդարները լուսնայինն են, All Muslim calendars are lunar. The Jewish one is also lunar, originating from Babylon and established by Bel's monks. Disagreements around calendars caused wars. Myths tell about this. Haik defeats Bel. He has to defeat. He has to, as time must be precise. The calendar must be precise. The statement Haik defeated Bel means that Armenia became independent of Babylon and restructured itself as an independent state. This is true indeed. However, another more global and systemic reality lies beneath this. This was actually a fight to preserve time schedule.
Ուրեմն ժամանակը չկորցնելու պայքարն է եղել։ Երբ որ մենք պետք է ժամանակ գերճշգրիտ հաշվենք,
When we need to measure time, where should we start our calculation for the terrestrial time and the movement of celestial coordinate networks to correspond, to be simultaneous, synchronous, so that there is no discordance even by a centimeter, a millimeter, a nanomillimeter? This equilibration should be found somewhere on the planet.
շռությունը պետք է լինի։ Եգիպտոսում դրա մասին
This phenomenon is called the Great Equilibration in Egypt.
Великое равновесие. Մեծն մատ
Mat the Great. This is the concept of the Great Equilibration.
շռումն է մատ։ Ու մինչև հիմա
Up till now, many researchers have been eager to understand what Mat the Great means and where to find its origin. Neither astronomers nor other specialists have so far been able to reveal systemic arrangements of this equilibration. Our planet rotates around its axis. One turn makes 24 hours, which constitutes a day. Besides, the Earth goes around the Sun, which results in a year with 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. One full annual turn around the Sun makes 365 days, 6 hours, 9 minutes, and 9 seconds. This is what we know. We also know that the orbit of the Earth is 940 million kilometers.
ամեն ինչի մեջ պետք է սինխրոնիզացիա, չէ՞։
Synchronization must be present in virtually everything in this world. Every movement is synchronous. As soon as this synchronous process shatters, the movement loses its regularity and the system collapses.
Ամբողջ մոլորակը ունի մի հատ համացանց մերիդիաններով եւ հասարակածային այդ զուգահեռականներով, այո, որով կարգավորվում է
The planet's movement is systemized through coordinate networks, meridians, lines of longitude, and parallel lines of latitude, which play a vital role in astronomy. Besides, they regulate also time. The system is necessary for regulations. We would have no regulations but for this system. This is just the case with planet. Consequently, there must be some equilibration point on our planet Earth. And the point is Greenwich. It is the zero meridian that divides the planet into 4 equal hemispheres. The other 23 meridians define the time on our planet. Time count on the planet begins from the zero meridian. For example, zero meridian denotes 0 o'clock. The first meridian denotes 02 o'clock. And soon 24 hours, 1 day. Why was this very meridian selected as the 0 point to count time? Actually, the Earth is round and any other meridian could be chosen. In the 17th century, Great Britain was considered the center of navigation. For sailors to orientate easily in space and time, naval cartography took the geographical location of Great Britain as the starting point. Later, in 1884, a decision was made in the capital city of the United States, Washington. To take the observatory in the Greenwich is the suburb of London, where one of the 24 meridians passed. However, to define accurate time, it is necessary for the time on Earth and the system of celestial bodies to be harmonious. The accurate time count is possible only when the movements of terrestrial and celestial bodies coincide. Once I tried to estimate if it would be possible to calculate the annual cycle of 365 days and 6 hours, taking into account the symmetry of terrestrial and coordinate networks, by the way, selecting geographical and time data of this region as the starting point of my calculations. When at 0 o'clock of Armenian time, the celestial zero meridian positioned at the most eastern point of the sky, crossing the equator, it formed a perfect combination and symmetry. Moving the stellar plan forward and backward, I came to the conclusion that further regulations are also symmetrical. There are lunar, solar and stellar calendars, the stellar one being the most stable. Altars in Armenian Apostolic churches are directed to the east. Being in a church, we can easily know where the east, west, north and south are.
Տաթևյան երկնքով աստղա կոորդինացիայով կարելի է
It is possible to measure time, the time of our planet Earth, through Armenian time, Tatev sky and astro coordination. However, the monastery complex of Tatev is completely deviated by 22.5 degrees from the east to the north. However, the monastery complex of Tatev is completely deviated by 22.5 degrees from the east to the north. After long studies, it turned out that the deviation of the monastery complex of Tatev is not accidental. It is directed to 67.5 degrees azimuth from where, on August 6 at 6 o'clock in the morning, sunrise and dawn are observed. According to the calculation, at that time and only on that day, the sun is at its correct setting point. That day is the first day of the additional month of the Armenian calendar.
Բոլոր այդ ժամային գոտիները ուրեմն հերթափոխի պես այդ զրոյի վրա
All celestial time zones followed each other. 0 o'clock Armenian time, geographical position Tatev.
հետո 0 ժամ հայկական ժամանակաշրջան
Then again 0 o'clock at the same coordinates. 0, 1, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and up to 24 meridians, a year that makes 360 days. Sunrise was at 6 a.m. sharp.
ժամը 6-ին ուղիղ դուրս եկավ
In other words, on August 6 at 6 o'clock in the morning, the planet Earth completes its one full rotation around the Sun and begins a new year. Meanwhile, there is one more significant phenomenon in Tatev, the column. The Tatev column faces east and 4 o'clock in the morning on August 11, it denotes at the belt of Orion in high constellation. Consequently, on that very day, the stellar sky finishes one round of its spiral, begins a new year.
արդեն այստեղ տեսնում ես
Thus, everything seems to be getting clear from the perspective of the calendar forming a powerful, comprehensive, and persistent system. That's simply amazing how our ancestors could master all this super knowledge about space some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. The solar year isn't static, while the stellar year is. To count the time accurately, the sun should be static. That's why the countdown takes the stellar year as its basis. The solar year constitutes 365 days. Let's divide the year 12 equal parts, 12 months. The solar year begins on August 6 and finishes on August 6 of the following year. This is the stellar year, also constituting 365 days. The stellar year begins and finishes a bit later, on August 11. As you notice, the beginning of the solar year and the end of the stellar year becomes longer. Let's make this line a circle. Now the most important. Let's remember the Armenian names of the months. Navasart, Hori, Sahmi, Tere, Khagots, Arats, Mehekan, Areg, Ahekan, Mareri, Margats, Herotis. And the 13th remaining month is Havelyats, additional, and constitutes 5 days and 6 hours.
եթե որևէ
The system wouldn't be super accurate, did it like anything.
այդ զրո մենակ համակարգվում է Հայաստանում, ուրիշ տեղ չի։
That zero is regulated solely via Armenia. There is no other point. Even ancient Egypt accepted Armenia as the starting point of their calculations, which is why the coordinates of the Big Pyramid pass here. That's so simple, just draw the lines. If you move from 45-degree azimuth northeast until it crosses 39.30 degree north latitude, you will definitely be amazed at where you find yourselves. This is where you will appear. So the Egyptians were aware all of that. Sumerians called this the land of gods, Աստվածների երկիր. Us in the word Աստված. God in Armenian means the disseminator of information, which characterized people of a specific class who possessed this knowledge. This metalinguistic mental trait can hardly be found in any other language. Manetho records that when semi-gods arrived in Egypt from the northeast, they brought knowledge to the Egyptians and along with it gave them the sacred calendar and commanded never to break the rules of the sacred calendar. Otherwise their civilization would collapse. The road of man dominating the planet to becoming so developed has been possible due to their ability to govern. Time measurement is the endless journey of our progress and development towards eternity. Our ancestors were aware of this. They also knew that time is not a closed cycle. Time moves spirally and upwards toward infinity. There is a beginning, there is an end, and the beginning of the new. The beginning is in the end, and the end is in the start. As it is said, the head should eat the tail, or the snake eats its tail.
Eventually,
the systemic provisions of the Haikyan Hikes calendar were revealed. And now we come to the notion of the seventh sky in our culture. For instance, the number of steps of an Armenian altar must be 7. Number 7 is major significance. It happens to be the height of Haik's constellation. When it stops on the column, it is 7 degrees above the horizon.
Այս դեպքում արդեն դու հասկանում ես, որ այդ ուրեմն մշակութային այդ ամբողջ հզորությունը, որ այդ
This is where all the power of the Armenian culture becomes comprehensible. The architecture from Karahanj to Vorotnavank, Tatev, and other churches could be qualified as Astro architecture. Armenian temples, churches stand overlooking stars at their height and major dates or events of the stellar calendar. On that very day, we went there to observe the rise of hike from Vorotnavank. It is great how stars appear in the narrow openings of the church windows. First, Aldebaran passes, followed by the Betelgeuse, the star hike's shoulder. When you change your point of observation, as soon as the latter reaches the opposite end of the window, you can see the three stars of Orion's belt in the right-hand window of the altar. Thus, as soon as you change the observation angle, which is one case is 90 degrees from where you can see Betelgeuse, Hike's shoulder or Vahagan star, and in the other it is 98 degrees. You can already watch Orion's belt on the equator. Through simple geometrical manipulations and following the altar data, it is possible to find at what angle both the equator, east-west, and the Earth axis, north-south, pass. And then we can have two equivalent coordinate nets. After all, nature was created in space and all nature perceives time for granted. A cock crows at the right time without having a look at a clock. Time has bioinformation signals. Actually, we have revealed these signals quite recently. Actually, we have revealed these signals quite recently. Absolutely everything needs refinement, and that's natural law. That's not something invented by us. As a result of experiments, we realized that with the end of Hike's circle, all the unnecessary information, rudely said the rubbish, of our intra-body system dissolves. We don't realize that the human intra-body system, blood circulation, activities of cells, etc. is fully governed. But who governs all that? For instance, cells have their own rules of movement, and these rules are tantamount to those of space. Our laws are all about earthly life, definitely. Our consciousness is here. However, there is bio-consciousness. We don't know much of it. We have just called it subconsciousness and put it under consciousness. Actually, the first one plays a primary role, while the latter is secondary. Bio-consciousness is connected to space, while consciousness is the material, ontological vision of this world. Nature has gifted us with billions of neurons. They shouldn't just sleep, they should all work, they are all to work. Evolution occurs stage by stage, so the evolution of reason and intelligence are destined for humanity. By the way, all religions have predicted and have been awaiting that day. For example, the Maya spoke about that directly. The Bible also mentions the Golden Age. As none gives any definite prerequisite for this to happen, all that seems vague. However, now I have come to realize that they have indeed. The thing is, one needs to comprehend certain ideas to get to the notion. Once one has realized that, everything becomes clear and one becomes aware of the core precondition, which demands to rediscover the symmetry of time and space. So they say rediscover synchronization of time and synchronize. Thus, carry out the quantum transition. Time itself is a harmonious rhythmical movement, and even our ancestors were aware of that. But we have come to understand the essence of the fight between Hayk and Bel only now. We convinced what they predestined, why they drew so much significance to time, why they struggled for the time calendar to be constant. In this land of stone, one culture is set on another, and then a third one follows, and so on. Armenia hasn't excavated properly. Whatever has been done could hardly be called excavation, as only the upper surface layers have been studied. People used to live here more than 12,000 years ago, before the Great Devastation, and that's a fact. We can find densely populated settlements here. If you excavate this very spot where we are sitting at the moment, you are sure to come across some ceramic artifacts. You will find that if you dig just the upper layer. If you keep digging, you will certainly find more and more layers. This is North New Halizor, with surrounding lands, with the new and old settlements, with a city fortress on the hillside, with ancient tombs over there and almost destroyed constructions. A similar picture can be observed around Harjis Khod. Let's keep driving towards Goris and we'll only witness the same picture along the road. There were really densely populated settlements, actually a megapolis. And now let's talk about what matters most. It happens that we often hear debates as to whether we lived here 7,500 years ago or not, or as to who used to live here. All these questions disappear as soon as we systemize time absolutely accurately, as one systemic time circle makes 25,920 years, which has been proved human civilization can't be only 7,000 years old. It should be at least 25,920 years old. Humanity has realized the time system. And here I call on the whole world. Look at these facts and arguments. Let's be guided by the time regularities and perceive them anew, so that time synchronizes, so that we are able to go into the new golden age. Let's do that together.
Like an honest monument, the element of time and the number of days constituting a year and following each other as if defined by some law corresponding to your body parts must be maintained spotless and impact.
Grigor Narekatsi, Book of Lamentations, Chapter 46, page 286.
Khio, khio, khane, khane, khio, khio, khane, khane. Kegin alim, yeski guzim, guzeruvot chinadanim, naranginin kihet chamim, sarchoshanam, tzotid matnim, khio, khio, khane, khane, khio, khio, khane, khane, khio.